Let me ask you something. Have you ever been out walking in nature, or maybe even just standing in your own backyard, and suddenly wondered, could there be a precious stone hiding underground right here? Well, the idea of stumbling across something valuable isn't exactly new. Even though news stories about gemstone discoveries have become more common in recent years, people have always dreamed about striking it rich by finding treasure on their own land, whether it's oil, gold, or some other natural resource. In fact, depending on your age, you might even remember the 1993 movie, The Beverly Hillbillies. It tells the story of Jed Clampett, a countryman whose life gets completely flipped upside down when he accidentally finds oil on his land in Arkansas and becomes a millionaire overnight. But let's forget about oil for now. What about precious stones? Could you actually find gems in your own backyard, just like Jed found oil by accident? The answer is yes. It's absolutely possible to figure out if your land, or any area around where you live, has the potential to hide valuable gemstones. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in this video. The truth is, most people never stop to think about what's under their feet. But once you finish watching this, I'm pretty sure you'll start looking at the ground around you in a completely different way. Just so you have an idea, out of every 100 people, only one actually knows how to recognize the early signs that an area might contain precious stones like rubies, garnets, or diamonds. That means you're about to get access to rare knowledge, something that could change your life forever. When I was a kid, I used to love collecting stones with my dad. We'd spend hours walking along trails and creek beds. While he fished, I was completely hypnotized, searching for anything shiny or with an unusual color. Back then, I had no idea what those stones really were. But I had one big dream deep inside, to find a real gemstone like a diamond someday. And that dream kept me going and growing my little collection over the years. Time went on, I started studying, took a few courses, and after some years, I finally found something that completely changed my life. It was a yellow diamond, about the size of a grape. That single discovery brought me thousands of dollars, and the realization that anyone can learn how to do the same, as long as they know where to begin. Now, I don't know if you've ever wanted to do something like this, but just imagine it for a second. You're walking in nature and suddenly find a raw diamond. Just picture the feeling of holding something truly valuable in your own hands. That's why today I'm going to walk you through exactly how to examine your land or any nearby area and figure out whether it might be hiding gemstones or not. We're also going to talk about the tools you'll need, the signs you should be watching for, and the most common mistakes that cause people to give up before they even get started. And on top of that, I'll share 3 key secrets that make all the difference between finding something valuable or walking away empty-handed. So even if your goal isn't to find precious stones, I can promise you this. After today, you'll never look at the ground the same way again. Because the moment you need to know whether you're holding something valuable or not, these secrets will fit perfectly like a glove. Now it's time to take your very first step, and that means learning how to spot the earliest signs of precious stones in the wild, even in places that might look completely ordinary. And this step is more strategic than most people realize. It's actually what every experienced prospector does. Instead of heading out trying to find rubies, diamonds, or emeralds, the real secret is to start by looking for the signs that nature leaves behind. And those signs are called satellite minerals, also known as mineral indicators. They work like natural clues that tell you whether the land around you has or once had the right geological conditions to form precious stones. In other words, instead of going after the rare gemstone directly, you begin by searching for what's usually found around it. And why is this so important? Because precious stones like diamonds are incredibly rare. Even in high-potential regions, the odds of finding a raw diamond right off the bat are extremely low. But if you know how to spot the minerals that form in the same locations and under the same conditions as diamonds, your chances of success increase dramatically. It's kind of like tracking a wild animal. You're not likely to see it right away, but you can follow its footprints, broken branches, or other signs that it was nearby. In the gem hunting world, mineral indicators are just like that. They're the tracks that tell you something much more valuable could be hiding close by. Let me give you an example. Let's go back to diamonds. Nobody starts out by looking for diamonds directly. What you're really looking for are things like pyramid garnet, ilmenite, chromite, spinel, and zircon. These heavy minerals are often found in the same geological formations as diamonds. If you spot one of these, especially in areas where there are signs of ancient volcanic rock like kimberlite, you're on the right path. And what's fascinating is that this strategy works for almost every type of gemstone. If you're looking for sapphires, for example, your best bet is to search for corundum and check for metamorphic rocks nearby, especially if you also see mica and feldspar in the mix. If you're more interested in finding tourmaline, then you'll want to focus on pegmatites and keep an eye out for multicolored or elongated crystals that form naturally within the host rock. So in other words, the first thing you need to understand is this. The real secret to finding gemstones in nature isn't about luck. It's about knowing exactly what to look for. And no one talks about this. That's why before you start digging or panning for gemstones, your first move should be to study the soil and the surface rocks around you. Pay special attention to anything that's unusually heavy, has a metallic shine, or shows clear crystal structures. These are usually the most revealing mineral indicators, and they might just be the first clues that you're standing on gemstone-rich ground. And if you're still not sure where to begin, here's what you can do. Head to a place where natural erosion has already exposed the soil, like slopes, riverbanks, or small ravines, and start collecting your first rock samples. And don't worry, you won't need expensive equipment or any advanced technical knowledge. All you really need is attention to detail and the right step-by-step process. Once you get to those areas where the soil has been exposed by nature, you'll quickly realize they're perfect spots to start. You can use a small pickaxe, a garden trowel, or even your hands if the ground is soft, and begin setting aside any stones that catch your eye. But here's a really important tip. Don't just go for the prettiest ones. Right now, what matters most is variety. Grab a little bit of everything, from colorful or shiny stones to the dullest, most boring-looking rocks you find. And there's a good reason for this. Many gemstones in their raw, uncut state don't look valuable at all. Take a look at this one. Would you ever guess that something like this could look like that on the inside? That's why the more variety you collect, the greater your chances of discovering something valuable. Bring your samples to a well-lit area. It could be a table outdoors near a window, or even laid out on a white towel on the ground. That will help you better see the colors and fine details of each stone. If possible, use a simple magnifying glass, nothing fancy, just the kind you find in school supply or garden stores. They make a huge difference when it comes to spotting textures, sparkles, and structures that are hard to see with the naked eye. And here's a trick most people overlook. Whenever you're analyzing your samples, spray them lightly with water or dip them in a small container. That will instantly enhance their natural shine and bring out the true colors of the minerals, making identification a lot easier, even for beginners. Each of these samples can give you a different clue about the potential of the land you're working on. And even if this sounds a little complicated right now, don't worry, because we're about to break it all down for you. Now that your samples are clean and organized in a well-lit area, it's time for a simple but incredibly useful visual screening step, one that will make the rest of your analysis much easier. The idea is to sort each stone based on what it actually represents from a geological point of view. After all, your goal isn't to build a rock collection, it's to identify signs that your land might be hiding real gemstones. And for that, there's a powerful way to divide your samples into 3 strategic groups: visible crystals, host rocks, and heavy minerals. Let's start with the first group, visible crystals. These are stones that have a glassy shine, partial transparency, or a natural geometric shape. Even if you don't know the name of the mineral, you can usually tell when a stone reflects light differently or has that cracked glass look. And that's important, because crystals like these mean the environment had the right conditions to form gemstones. For example, a piece of clear quartz might be just quartz, but it might also mean that topaz, garnet, or even tourmaline is present nearby. Crystals with strong colors like rose quartz, citrine, or amethyst deserve extra attention too. If you find clearly structured crystals, even tiny ones, they could be the first clue pointing to a much richer geological system beneath your feet. Now on to the second group, host rocks. These are the rocks that act as natural homes for gemstones. And here's where things get really exciting. One of the most important host rocks you can find in nature is pegmatite. It looks a bit like granite, but what sets it apart is the size of its crystals, sometimes 2, 3, or even more centimeters across. Pegmatite is like a jackpot for gemstone hunters. It can contain multicolored tourmalines, aquamarines, morganites, topaz, spodumene, and even rare types of beryl like goshenite. So if you find a whitish rock with large, shiny grains of different colors, pay close attention, especially if you notice shiny flakes that look like plastic or fish scales. That's mica, a golden or silvery mineral that often appears alongside pegmatite. On its own, mica is already a fantastic sign. Another important host rock is granite. It's usually more common and easier to identify than pegmatite. Granite also has visible grains, but they're smaller and more uniform. It's mostly made up of quartz, feldspar, and mica, and it points to a region with past volcanic activity, which increases the chance of finding colorful minerals. While granite itself doesn't usually contain gemstones, its presence near pegmatite is a strong indicator that the area has real potential. There's another important host rock we haven't talked about yet, schist. This is a metamorphic rock formed under intense pressure, and it often contains valuable minerals. Schists with garnet, kyanite, staurolite, or mica are fairly common, and they're strong indicators that the area has gone through major geological transformations. In some places, schist can even contain cordierite, analyzite, or small sapphire crystals. So if you come across this kind of rock, that's another clear sign it's worth digging deeper, literally. And now we come to the third group, heavy, dark minerals. These are the real underground footprints left behind by the Earth's geological activity. At first glance, they might seem dull, dark, metallic-looking, sometimes opaque, but they actually hold one of the most important clues for gemstone hunters. What makes these minerals so relevant isn't just their color, it's their density. In other words, how heavy the stone feels compared to its size. Have you ever picked up a small rock that felt surprisingly heavy in your hand? That's exactly the kind of signal we're looking for. Minerals like ilmenite, magnetite, hematite, chromite, and zircon are far denser than your average rock. And that's what makes them so valuable when you're prospecting. Now, these minerals aren't gemstones themselves, but they're often created by the same geological processes that form rubies, sapphires, spinels, and even diamonds. So if you find one of these dense, dark stones, you might be closer to the jackpot than you think. At this point, you might be wondering, how do I tell if a stone is denser than usual? The answer is comparison. Pick up 2 rocks of about the same size, one a common quartz and the other a darker, more metallic stone. If that second one feels a lot heavier, that's a strong indicator of higher density. Over time, you'll get better at feeling the difference. But in the beginning, just use your hands and start comparing. And here's a practical tip. Anytime you find a stone that's dark, heavy, and has a metallic sheen, set it aside. There's also a super useful trick you can try, the magnet test. Use a neodymium magnet, the strong kind, and hold it near your samples. If one of them is even slightly attracted to the magnet, there's a good chance it's magnetite or some other iron-rich mineral. And believe it or not, that's one of the best indicators that the ground you're standing on has seen serious geological action. Now, if you find this kind of stone near rivers, creeks, or old riverbeds, pay extra attention because dense minerals, thanks to their weight, tend to settle in specific spots known as trap points. These are cavities, cracks, or pockets in the riverbed where the water slows down, and the heaviest materials like coarse gravel, dense minerals, and sometimes even gemstones get trapped and accumulate. You can think of these trap points like little natural pockets or crevices carved into the rock at the bottom of a river. While the water keeps flowing, the heavy stuff stays behind. And this is exactly where seasoned prospectors focus their efforts. If you've ever heard of alluvial deposits, that's what we're talking about. Natural zones where water carries and drops off valuable material, creating real concentrations of heavy minerals and sometimes precious stones. One more thing, these alluvial deposits aren't only found in active rivers. You can also find traces of them in dry areas where rivers used to flow thousands or even millions of years ago. In those places, even without running water, the evidence is still there. Accumulated gravel, rounded stones, and tucked in between them, dark, dense minerals, and maybe, just maybe, a hidden gem. So once you've gathered your samples, pay close attention. Density, metallic shine, magnetic attraction, and where the stone was found. All of these factors combined tell you much more than they seem to at first glance. A small piece of hematite or zircon might be proof that the area experienced enough heat and pressure to form those minerals. And that's exactly the kind of environment where rubies, sapphires, and diamonds are born. Sorting your samples into visible crystals, host rocks, and heavy minerals gives you a clear snapshot of that land's geological makeup. And with that insight, you start piecing together a puzzle that can reveal if something truly valuable is buried below. Instead of blindly chasing after gemstones, you start following the real clues, just like professional prospectors do. And that changes everything. You stop wasting time on false leads and start having fun, because now you actually know what you're doing. Now that you've sorted your samples into the three main groups, it's time to take the next step, figuring out exactly what it is you're holding. It might sound intimidating, but it's actually much easier than most people think. You don't need to be a professional geologist, and you don't need expensive equipment. What you do need is a sharp eye, some patience, and the right methods. The first thing you need to understand is that many gemstones in their raw form look nothing like the polished versions we see in jewelry stores. A rough diamond, for example, might just look like a cloudy pebble with an irregular shape. A colorless topaz might look almost identical to quartz, and a sapphire covered in dirt or a chalky coating could be completely overlooked. That's why proper identification takes observation, cleaning, and comparison. Start with the stones that stand out, the ones that catch your eye because of their color, shape, or shine. Pick them up one by one and examine them under good lighting, preferably natural daylight. If you have one, use that same simple magnifying glass we talked about before. That little tool can reveal details the naked eye misses, like crystal structures, tiny inclusions, or inner reflections. Another simple trick that works wonders is to spray the stone with a bit of clean water or dip it quickly into a glass of water. Just doing this can reveal its true color and natural shine. In many cases, that one step alone is enough to show you whether it's just an ordinary rock or something worth a closer look. Once the stone is clean and examined, you can start comparing it to reference images. One practical option is to use a rock identification app, like Rock Identifier. Just take a good photo of your stone against a plain background, and the app will suggest what it might be. Of course, these tools aren't perfect, so if you want more accuracy, turn to Google Images or even YouTube videos for visual comparisons. Search for the name of the mineral you think you found and compare it with what's in your hand. Look closely at the color, but also at the luster, shape, and surface texture. For instance, quartz crystals often have a glassy shine, while emeralds might have a slightly oily glow and visible internal inclusions. Over time, you'll start to recognize the unique traits of each kind of stone. And even if it all looks the same at first, your brain will begin picking up on the subtle differences. It's kind of like learning to tell different fruits apart in the dark. At first it's tricky, but after you've touched, smelled, and examined enough of them, it becomes second nature. One thing to keep in mind, not every beautiful rock is a gemstone, and not every gemstone has commercial value. A stone's worth depends on a mix of factors like rarity, beauty clarity, color size, and of course, market demand. So even if you find a stunning stone, it's worth doing a little research to see if it actually holds any real gem value, or if it's just a cool mineral for your collection. And if you ever come across a stone that really stands out, something that makes you pause, keep it. Take good photos, write down where you found it, and keep researching. You can even share pictures in online gem hunting or geology groups. There are plenty of knowledgeable amateurs out there who are more than happy to help. Just remember, gemstone identification is a skill that gets better with time. The more stones you see, compare, and study, the faster you'll improve. And even if you don't strike it rich right away, every stone you examine brings you one step closer to your first major find. But there's still something missing, right? Let's think about it. At this point, you already know how to read the signs, separate different types of rocks, and interpret what each sample can tell you about the ground beneath your feet. But now the question is, what's the next step? The truth is, you can keep learning right here on this channel. We have tons of free videos that dive deeper into how to identify diamonds, rubies, sapphires, tourmalines, and many other precious stones. Just hit that subscribe button and start exploring the topics that interest you most. Each video is like one more piece of the puzzle. And while everything is well explained across the channel, sometimes what you really need is to have all this information in one place, organized, visual, and simple to follow. That's exactly why we created the ebook Gemology Journey for Beginners. It's like a pocket guide that brings together everything you've learned here, plus a lot of new insights that we haven't covered in the videos yet. The ebook is constantly being updated with fresh content, and soon we'll also be releasing a printed version for those who prefer to study without a screen. The regular price is $29.90, but subscribers who use the link in the description can grab it with a 50% discount, paying just $9.99. And if you want to go even further, you can become a Gem Hunter level member of this channel. Members get exclusive content, early access to new videos, a custom Gem Hunter badge, and a spot of honor in every upcoming video. I also want to say a huge thank you to all the new members who've decided to support this project and walk this journey with me. You truly make this dream possible. Now, if it's not the right time for you to dive in just yet, no problem. You can still join us on this journey by subscribing and watching the next video, where I'll show you how to find even more gemstones in the wild, some of which might be worth even more than a diamond. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, Gem Hunter.